Hi everyone, my name is Emily. I produced the film Motherland, and
Hi, my name's Tom, and I wrote and directed the film. So we just talk about the film.
Yeah.
Okay. So the inspiration for our film was basically I saw one of my friends going through Instagram, and then one of his mates had put a video on Instagram, and it was like a bunch of white guys like wearing African print clothing and like running around kind of shouting and making noises, and pissed me off a little bit. So I wrote this film about it, kind of sparked some feelings, and then I wrote this film about my wider feelings about these kind of topics, and how I would like deal with seeing something like that and like processing it.
And so far, the reaction to your film, have you received, a positive reaction, and is it getting the message across that you've intended to, in a way?
Yeah.
It's been a bit polarizing because, like, if they don't get it, they don't get it. If they do,
but it's not really. I don't really think the film like has a message in that sense. It's more just like about my like personal feelings, and I'm not really trying to speak on a wider sense or make any big statements about anything. I'm just saying what's more about like how I feel about one particular event. But yeah, I think people generally seem to get it.
Yeah,
more or less.
And if they don't, they're really intrigued and really interested, and by the end of it they more or less get it. So like that's I think it's the best reaction we get.
Yeah,
they just like the film whether they get it or not.
Yeah, I think it makes people think. So that's good.
Great. And then Emily, how did you get involved then as producer? Were you coerced into organising everything to get the shoot filmed, or how did that come about? Just in terms of saying, you had a film written and wanted to make this, and then Emily, were you approached as such to produce it, and how did you sort of come together in that respect?
Right. Well, we were already working together, basically. Like, we had agreed, like, we're gonna make a film, and just so happened Tom was the one who was writing, and he had the ideas first, and I just naturally kind of progressed into a more producer role. But I also did a lot of like the camera work, and I did editing, and I also did the poster. So like it was a very like super collaborative.
Yeah, you were involved from the very start, even in terms of the idea. When we're trying to decide what to make a film about, you like ask me like what do you care about, like what's on your mind at the minute, and that's actually what like started us going with this topic. So we were basically we were collaborating like even before the idea was created.
So like I would say, I mean, like when people ask me about the film, I'd say Tom is pretty much the essence of the film, but we were like partners in the actual making of it. Yeah.
Super, thank you. I think it's always great for audiences to know the background as well, in terms of how like a filmmaking team has come together and what factors sort of brought you together to make that. So thank you. That is perfect. That is brilliant, just to get putting faces to the names and hear a little bit about that process. So thank you. Okay, over to Amber now, if that's okay. Amber, you're very welcome again, and again, congratulations on being shortlisted as part of Cinemagic Young Filmmaker. So yeah, over to you. If you can give us a little synopsis of the film, its title, and again, just the inspiration behind getting that film made.
Sorry about the noise, that's just my school bell. So I'm Amber Wright, and I wrote, directed, and shot and edited this film during lockdown. The film's called Breathe. And it basically, I was inspired by a short story called Over the Hedge by E.M. Forster. And from that, I sort of took the idea of a road and a hedge and took it quite literally and put it into this metaphor of what lockdown did to us all mentally, and how it was this surreal experience. I tried to make it really dreamlike. So you have the initial section walking along the road, and then she, like the lead character who's played by my sister, walks through this hedge and enters this new surreal world, sort of like Narnia and Pan's Labyrinth and Alice in Wonderland, that kind of magical realist vibe. And then I wanted to explore the entrapment and isolation of lockdown and all those feelings, but also the beauty of the world around us and the frustration with not being able to connect with nature and go outside. So we shot it in a very beautiful location in Dorset, and it's very picturesque, but the theme is very sort of sad. It's silent and quite metaphorical, but I wanted audiences to take what they wanted from it, in terms of if they took it as a metaphor for lockdown, or as if they just wanted to watch a film that looked quite pretty, or if they could connect with it in any other way. So yeah, that was my sort of inspiration and a bit about the film.
Excellent, thanks Amber. And were you to be tasked with making a film anyway in this period, or did lockdown just inspire you to make one?
So I sort of joined this film community with the Youth Cinema Foundation and a director called Jack Price, and he mentored lots of young filmmakers over the lockdown period in making short films, and we were in charge of writing, directing, shooting, and I didn't have any resources other than just a DSLR camera and no sound equipment, so we were quite limited in terms of location as well, because obviously in lockdown we couldn't go for more than 1 hour a day outside, so it definitely restrained things in that sense. And so we filmed really near to where I live, and so I wasn't tasked with making a film or anything. I was part of a group that were making films, and I just decided that I had enough time on my hands and would like to, as inspired by this current situation.
That is brilliant, thank you. That's great to hear, because I know lots of people are studying film and at school and whatnot, and then they didn't get a chance, for example, to make a short film that they were maybe supposed to do by the end of the summer or whatever. So that is great in terms of you making the film sort of off your own bat in a way and joining that group and that community. So that's, I suppose, an example of being able to do something fruitful with a situation that everybody found themselves in. Brilliant, Amber, thank you. That's great to shine a light on your film. Thanks a lot. Okay, over to Abigail now. Hi, Abigail. Hi there. If you can do the same and just introduce your film title, and a little bit about how it came to be.
Yeah. So the film is called The Fault, and it was during the lockdown. Me and my friend Josh, we decided that we just wanted to go out and make a film. We had a camera and we just wanted to shoot something. So we went to my old area, which is like Galman Road, and at the time loads of GCSE students were getting their results back with the algorithm that was incorrect, basically because of the way they lived, and facing like a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, like en masse, which you can't control. So The Fault is named The Fault because it is unowned. The film is about being able to unbreak from expectations. So the character does something that he was always expected to do, but he did it by accident. So it's not his fault, it's not her fault, it's a fault in the system.
Great, thank you. I know it's always great hearing that, because sometimes, if people are approaching watching these films when they are going to be showcased at Cinemagic, they don't know anything about the sort of reasoning behind things, and even like the meaning of the title, in terms of how that came to be. So thank you, that's good just to get that insight as well. And well done again on being shortlisted in this category. Thanks, Abigail. Okay, over to Aoife, please, if that's okay. Hi, Aoife, lovely to see you.
Hi. Thank you, you too. So my name is Aoife, and my film is called Opposable. And it came about because I go to the National Film School down here in Dublin, and at the end of our second year we were supposed to make a experimental kind of more of an art piece instead of like a conventional narrative kind of film, so something that would be shown more in an art gallery instead of like, or an art cinema instead of like your regular kind of cinema. And we had to draw inspiration from a painting that we liked. And I can't say it because it's in Italian, but it is, the painting that I chose in English means a woman scorned, and it's this beautiful kind of painting of a face of a woman, and then behind her this kind of blurry angelic kind of looking scene with all these angels. And I kind of took inspiration that humans as a species, I think we have a superiority complex, where I think we think that we're better and we're just higher up in the food chain. Like, we may be, but we're still just animals at the end of the day. So my film is kind of this look of our primal nature fighting with our kind of modern society kind of view of like a gentleman, which personally I don't think exists, because I think we're all just animals. And it's filmed, the whole thing, you can't really tell because of the lighting, but the whole thing's actually filmed over one day in my bathroom. So that's a little behind the scenes, because like hopefully you won't be able to tell when you look at it, because I had the day off from college. I filmed the whole thing in one day, thinking that the next day I'd be able to use the studio that I'd booked out. But that evening, Ireland had gone into complete lockdown. Weren't allowed to go anywhere, couldn't leave past the end of the road. So I had to kind of just use all these close-up shots that I had and kind of make a film out of that, when initially I wanted all this stuff that I couldn't do. So the whole thing is shot, edited, everything is done by me in lockdown. So yeah.
Super brilliant, thank you. And that's interesting too, because like if the scenario was different, the end product might have and probably would have looked like a very different kind of film. But in one way, the situation controlled the way the film was finally made, I suppose, and that was the way that you've had to accept that. So that's really good. And isn't it interesting the way that sometimes all the ideas in the world that you have for something are then suddenly changed by like a set of circumstances that happen. And probably then you making that film in that way, you've probably, you know, learned certain things, and maybe that has influenced your thought process in terms of making future films as well, and where they should or shouldn't be shot. But yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you. Thanks a million. Pippa?
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'll go for it. My film's called Clara's Room, and it's about a girl, Clara, and it's told through the perspective of her bedroom, and like through a mosaic of moments in her bedroom. The idea, the inspiration I had for the film was just I wanted to kind of explore the kind of very unique relationship that mothers and daughters have. So yes, the film is about Clara, but it's also about Clara and her mother. And I wanted to sort of tell that through her bedroom as a character, because I think for teenage girls, Clara is kind of in her last year of secondary school. And I think teenage girls anyway, I know I did, I spent a lot of my teenage years in my bedroom, and I think my bedroom was almost a manifestation of me. So like, I don't know if that's because that was the only place I felt that was really mine, that I owned in when I was a teenager anyway, living at home. But I just kind of liked the idea of this interior space as sort of like a jumping off point for all of these moments that might just happen, that shape you, because you know everything that happens to you shapes how you are, shapes you in some way, big or small. But sort of just how an interior space can almost be its own character and kind of be a manifestation of what you're feeling. So I know when I'm feeling a bit sad, there's a few more mugs of tea in my room. My room's a little bit more filled with rubbish, for example, than when I'm in a better room, so better mood. So anyway, that was sort of the idea for this concept of a story told in vignettes within a bedroom.
Super, yes, no, that's brilliant. It's so interesting the way everyone approaches filmmaking in a different way in terms of what they want to get across and what message and what sort of things mean certain things and what themes can come up, you know, as you even just give that example of a couple of empty coffee cups in a tea in a room building up over a couple of days. Eventually you could build that picture up of seeing how that person is feeling mentally and their own sort of well-being, and if you're on top of the world or not, or on top of the chores and whatnot. Thank you, Pippa. No, that's great. I mean, this is so fascinating, I think, always to hear from young filmmakers as well, and especially over the last couple of months, because, you know, there has been more time to think about the situation that we're all in, and you know, I suppose the meaning of things a lot more as well. So that's fascinating to hear that take on things, Pippa. Thank you. Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte, you're very welcome.
Hi.
Hi, if you can just fire away and introduce your film and tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind it as well, and the message, I suppose, of it.
Sure. So my film's called It Always Feels Like the End of the World, and I came up with the idea for it like last year, actually, like towards the end of last year. And I don't know, I just had like a feeling of like, it just feels like bad things are about to start happening. I don't know what it was, but I just had this bad vibe. And like I remember like the whole year had been, people had been talking about the effects of climate change. Like that was one of the big themes of last year.
Yeah.
It feels like forever ago now. But I just kind of started thinking about the future, and as young people, how uncertain it feels. And I kind of wanted to explore, like, we hear all these things about what the future might look like, but we don't see a lot about how it affects the mindset of the individual person.
Yeah.
And so the film is a monologue set in a sort of ambiguous time, where, you know, all sorts of different things are going wrong, and trying to maintain a sense of normality within this world where, you know, like the power's going out, and, you know, the air quality is really bad, but it's all contained within this one room, to communicate that, you know, it reflects where we are now, but it could be any time. This feeling of things are starting to like go really wrong, and how just one person tries to cope with it.
Thank you. Yes, I think in many regards, all we do and should worry about is how individually we're all coping with things, or with issues that come on board. And obviously everyone's experience of certain things is so individual as well. Brilliant. Thank you, Charlotte. So you had a little bit of an omen then at the start of, or the end of last year about how 2020 might pan out.
Yeah, and it was really weird because like it wasn't supposed to be about the virus, but
yeah.
We filmed it a week before lockdown, like literally like the week before lockdown, and if it had been any later we wouldn't have been able to do it. And yeah, we just kept like, I just added a couple little references to what was going on like in the moment, then I chucked like a mask in there and stuff, and it just felt like the whole thing changed of what the meaning was about, because there was no virus when I wrote it, but then like by the time I made it, it had taken like a life of its own basically, which was really weird.
I know. And also though, when you think of it then, in 6 months or a year down the line, you know, all of these films actually will be very much off their time, you know, off 2020, even the ones that aren't at all specifically related to lockdown or the virus, but they were all made, I suppose, within or around this time. So a little bit of a time capsule for years to come as well. Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, well then over to Rob, last but not least. Thanks, Rob.
Hi. My film's called Drowning, and it was a response to my filmmaking coursework brief for my A-level. and it kind of, the brief was really restrictive, and it was like, your narrative has to have a plot twist or a binary opposition or something, and I hate restrictions of any form and wasn't vibing with it. So that's what Drowning was, and it's kind of a result of like kind of my own overwhelmingness with like modern life and kind of dealing with everything that's happening. And just then it was 2019 when I first made it. It was literally just like A-levels and like a few other things, but yeah, it's just kind of become more and more powerful to me, because it does come from somewhere deep inside me, but it's kind of become something else as I made it and worked with. I work with quite a few people. Like I worked with this guy called Henry, who's my cinematographer, and he made it look like beautiful. Like I can't take any credit for how good the film looks, but like I do really like how it looks. But like that's not me. I'm not being, hey, my film looks so great. That's how he was, like so amazing. And yeah, it's just, that's what I was just like a producer, writer. It's my ideas, but he made it look really nice.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, yeah, just on that then, if you, in terms of the brief for that film and restrictions and things, like it's interesting then if restrictions are something that you generally don't like or deal with, you would have had a challenge then over the last few months.
Yeah.
But actually that's such a good way to take that, you know, like very much so. I know colleges and schools are like, right, this is the syllabus, this is what you have to do. It's like nearly not letting you put your own stamp on certain things because there are so many restrictions. But isn't film a perfect way to address that and a perfect way to sort of put your stamp on that? So well done, that was a really interesting take.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.